All right, here we are with Scott Wiggam, state representative for Ohio. Man, good to have you here.
It's good to be here, Josiah. Appreciate it. No, I think this is a great opportunity. I wanted to have an opportunity where I could just directly reach people about the issues of Ohio, what's going on, and what we're looking for in the next 2 years, because it's going to be some serious stuff coming down the road here.
Man, I think we're into some serious stuff already, and you kind of jumped right into the reason why we've gathered. We want to discuss some issues that you can speak to directly for Ohio, for Wayne County, for community, as well as how that plays into the nation, right? So I'm excited to jump into a number of those things. There is a lot going on with our country right now and with our state. So where do we want to jump in at with that? I mean, what's upcoming in your world? What matters at the state level for Ohio? How does that play in with the national scene?
Well, the things that matter for, I think, Ohioans, Wayne Countyans are the same things that you see nationally. I mean, inflation's out of control, and energy costs are probably driving that. Crime is an issue in Ohio. What's going to happen with the fact that we don't have a border on a southern border? How does that going to affect Ohio? What are we going to do to deal with that? So some of the things that I want to talk about is what should Ohio be looking at for these next 2 years, okay, in order to try to protect Ohioans? Because quite frankly, I don't know what we're going to see out of the federal government, but we can't expect much. And so, whether the federal government somehow implodes or the dollar fails or something like that, I mean, what is Ohio doing to try to be a place where we're going to protect our citizens and try to maintain our way of life? And I mean, I think that's the most important. So inflation, if you start with inflation, one of the things, I mean, we can't necessarily directly affect that in the sense of printing money or not printing money like the federal government does.
Right.
So,
and they love printing money, by the way.
Well, they do. I remember talking to somebody just a month ago saying, yeah, well, $31 trillion in debt. How are you ever going to pay that back? And the guy was like, oh, I think we're 33 now. I mean, it's just coming so fast.
Oh, yeah.
That it's trouble.
But here's the thing. I have great news for that. I don't know if you saw this or not. I watched a soundbite where a reporter approached Joe Biden doing one of the most important things he does in office, which is eat ice cream cones. Oh. And so they cornered him, I think, in a Baskin-Robbins. I don't know which of the 31 flavors. I know everybody cares about that, which flavor of ice cream he's eating. But the reporter actually asked him about inflation. Are you concerned about that? And he said, no, our economy is absolutely strong. To quote him, absolutely strong, right?
Right.
So, and she goes, you know what I'm worried about, though, is the other countries. The other countries are really gotcha. So the inflation that we are feeling here on a local level in Wayne County is somebody else's fault.
Right. Well, what's interesting about that, because I saw that clip too, what's interesting about Biden's comment is that once again, he's worried about other countries, and he's not worried about America. And the fact of the matter is you have all these economists. I mean, almost every single one of them saying, listen, I know that the Biden administration is saying we don't have a recession right now, even though we have everything that indicates a recession,
right?
All the indicators that you've been looking at for the past 40 years. But Biden says no, and therefore we've got to debate the idea of whether we're in a recession. But all these economists are saying that we will. And Biden, I remember Biden saying that inflation was temporary. And now he's saying that a recession will be temporary. So, he doesn't have a good track record. And so that's why the reporters have got to ask him about the flavor of the ice cream and not about what's going to happen, because he doesn't
have an answer for it.
He doesn't have an answer.
He doesn't have an answer.
And his policies are making it worse.
Far worse. And to an increasing degree, I think that everybody who is willing to stay on that bandwagon of the far-leaning leftist side of things is becoming more and more complicit to these issues. And it's going to make it harder and harder for them to run, I think, on that platform. Because you can't say that you're people first when, I mean, how much is the inflation costing Americans? $5,000, $6,000 a year right now?
Right. So
that's a chunk.
They just came out with $6,000 per household. $6,000 per household is the Biden new tax.
If I drop $6,000 on my way out of the office, I'm stopping to pick it up. I don't know about you. That's a sizable amount of money, right?
No kidding. We're at September's numbers. We're 8.2% inflation. $6,000 a year is the new number. And they say it's, Biden wants to say it's not going to get worse, that it's going to get better. But all indications it's going to get tougher. And if something happens with the dollar, as the rest of the nations are starting to work on, I don't know if you saw Saudi Arabia. Biden just went over to Saudi Arabia asking asking them to they basically asked them not to go into cutting down, reducing their oil outputs.
Right.
And Saudi Arabia said, forget you. They did it the very next day. And the very next day, Saudi Arabia made a deal with Russia and China. I mean, that's what's happening. Is Biden? America is getting knocked out of all of these deals. We're not in the room anymore, and they don't care. That's how weak Biden is. And I just remember. I mean, we might be going down a different trail, but I just remember the fact that Trump. They said Trump was not going to be able to. America was losing its footing in the world, and we were probably as strongest as we'd ever been.
Yeah. Yeah,
under 3 to 4 years of Trump. So.
Well, and then you look at this, and I don't know that I've heard too many people talk about this, but by definition, how is that not a quid pro quo? What Biden went over and asked for? I mean, you have the Saudis now coming out in a letter that says you asked us to postpone this a month, which would put us to, let me check my calendar. Oh yeah, right after the midterms.
Yes. So
why is nobody talking about that?
So well, they should be. And there may be some outlets, but not many. But here's the fact of the matter that I've come to the conclusion. The Democrat Party at the national level, they don't care about hypocrisy. That charge will never amount to anything for them because they really don't care. It's they're full steam ahead, going towards one set of ideals, and they're going to do it at all costs. Basically, that's where I've come to. Now, this may not be your Democrat right next door. I'm talking about the national politics, and it comes down into the state politics because I will tell you, wherever the Democrats are and wherever they rule, the policies ruin those areas. Take a look at our cities; policies are ruined. The federal government, Trump was fighting against the State Department. He was fighting against a deep state type of regime. People that had been there 30 years and kept on pushing those things. But he was doing an excellent job. I mean, things were changing, right? Things were changing for under Trump. And then you had, and now we have complete control, not just the internal mechanisms of Washington, D.C., but you have also the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And everything's falling apart. It's just absolutely ruinous. And so my point is, hey, you do that to the state of Ohio, you're going to see the same thing. You send somebody down to the state house that's a Democrat, you're going to see the exact same thing. They all have the same policies.
Yep. And that really is it. It's not about personality, and so much about politics we want to make about personality. And really at the end of the day, personality makes somebody likable or it makes me not want to hang out with you, but that's not what affects my life. Whether the politician has a great personality or a cruddy personality, the policies are what really are going to affect my life. And so I think we've really made a bad mistake in trying to make this all about personality and what sounds good rather than about the policies that affect our lives.
It's true. That's true. That's true. But, the state, like I said, can't do a ton regarding the printing of money that's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. But what we can do is try to lower our taxes, try to get more money in the hands of families. And I think that's what we need to do. I mean, this is the best time ever because of the printing of money. A lot of individuals got, $1,200 check and $1,000 check. You remember when that was coming out. And I think that's part of our problem now, but it even is extrapolated. It's gone on steroids under the Biden administration. Basically, governments got that times a million. I mean, they got millions of dollars, and so did the state of Ohio, and it's sitting there. ARPA funds and the other two funds that came out, large amount of money. There is so much money in government sitting there. We have got to get the taxes that we're taking from family. We got to get them back to the people. And I think that's going to be so important to try to deal with some of these, at least these initial inflation. The other side of the aisle would say, no, keep all the money and start new programs, new investments. And those investments will never pay off. And they'll just take more money out of the system, more money out of the pockets of families, and make families more needy on government. That's what they actually want. And I think that we have to do the exact opposite. I think we've got to start rolling back anything that we have. I mean, we've done a pretty good job of rolling back some of the regulations that we've looked at. It's been a fight. Okay, we're fighting with bureaucrats in Columbus. I can't imagine what it's like in D.C. Be the last place I want to go, really. But the bureaucrats in Columbus fight enough. I was working on one bill. There was an organization, a company in Wayne County. It was an entertainment company, and they had won a liquor license on the ballot. I mean, they had won it, and the Department of Commerce said, no, you can't have it because you don't have this, and this. It's in our rules. So I had a conversation with the bureaucratic. I had a conversation with the lawyer that had been there for 30 years. And she on the phone, she said, well, I wouldn't want to go to an outdoor event that only had porta pots and drink beer. That's not what I would want to do. And so, I was thinking, well, I said, well, you don't have to go to it, but I still want them to be able to utilize what they won in the election that they just had. And so I've got to write a new law and see if I can slip it in and put it into another bill to make sure that they can do what they wanted to do, and it would be self-serve, beer and wine. But they can't do it.
Wow.
Because of the rules that the state had. And sometimes I think it depends on who you are or what you do. Maybe they might look the other way. He could do it if he did it all, if he had nonprofits come in. But nonprofits don't exist without profit.
That's right.
Who's going to make the profit? Somebody's going to make the profit to be able to, so nonprofits can exist. But he could do it. So it's not about health. The health department doesn't care. Everything's kosher. Everything's good. But this was just a bureaucratic thing. But I've been trying to roll that back. But I think one of the things that needs to happen is the income tax needs to go away. I'd like to even cut down the cat tax. But we've got to start getting government out of the idea that we can just spend our way out of these things and make life better. We're not.
No, we're not. So that, those are some excellent steps on the inflation front to kind of help families cope with what is happening at a federal level. And I think that unrest that we're feeling, because it's kind of a helpless feeling, right? As just a citizen, here we are. That's at 6,000 that my household has lost, statistically speaking. Nobody asked. I don't feel like I was a part of any of those, just as an average citizen. Now, you can make the statement, well, you voted for, I voted along my values, and I don't feel like they're necessarily what's prevailing, right? So, and that's not those that are in office, such as yourself's fault, but it's the prevailing and what's happening with the Fed. And how does that work exactly, right? So the inflation piece, man, I'm all for that, and the government being more and more out of my life and my pocketbook, my wallet, absolutely, that's all good stuff. Talk to me about energy, because I've noticed that's doubled. I'm feeling that. I think a lot of people are feeling that, right? So the energy costs are something that's absolutely skyrocketing. And that's another point where a lot of people feel helpless, and we want to make sure that good guys like yourself are in office and able to fight these issues for us. So talk to us about the energy costs.
Well, as you said with energy, it's going to be a big deal. And I think it could be, and people I think are going to notice it, not just at the pump, but they're going to notice it in their I think they're going to notice it in their home heating, possibly more than you think. Ohio is actually in a better place than a lot of states. Now, I know that we're a part of a PJM larger market for electricity. However, if you go to the natural gas side, which I think is fabulous, and we need to keep on driving out and trying to utilize our natural gas. But the Southeast Ohio, West Virginia, we are sitting on the Saudi Arabia of natural gas, and we've got to utilize that. That's one thing I want to work on. But as you said, your NCF for natural gas has more than doubled. Your kilowatt hour cost has more than doubled for electricity. Okay, and so as we go forward, as that continues to creep up, people are going to notice it more and more. That's going to be another issue that we're going to be facing, and a lot of that happens because of what the federal government has put in place, as far as energy is working on a futures market, and you stop the XL pipeline. That's one thing. That's one hit. These energy companies know what's coming down the pike. And so they begin to stop putting in resources because they're not going to be able to do business based upon the XL pipeline. Also, what happens is Biden quit signing leases. He's just stopped that. And then he's going to Venezuela, and he's going to Saudi Arabia, and he's going to wherever except Russia, of course, and asking for oil and natural. You guys do it. Okay, we do it cleaner than any other nation, in the world. Why isn't he going to our producers and saying, our producers are saying they can do it here? But see, that doesn't work within their narrative and
right.
what they want to do. It actually cripples America, makes it tougher, and gives a lot of power to other nations. And so, but that's a problem. And so, one of the things that we have done though here locally, okay, is and I was able to do this. We did this in a couple of bills, but we actually got rid of nearly every single energy tax.
Wow.
That the state had put on. Now, PUCO still is able to put on riders. These are called energy riders on your energy bill. But this just happened within the last one was taken off, close to the last one. There's two more that I'd like to see gone. But we got rid of almost $1 billion worth of energy riders, taxes on on the state of Ohio, wow. on their energy bills. So, not many people are talking about that, but there's a fight right now constantly at the State House to put some back in. And what I'm saying is those energy bills, okay, those energy taxes were us taking money out of, whether you knew it or not, taking money out of your energy bill or adding onto your energy bill for wind, solar, and energy efficiency programs. Now, two things you need to know. Some of that wind and solar wasn't even in the state of Ohio. We couldn't utilize it. It was like solar panels in California and windmills in Oklahoma. It was ridiculous. What? Yeah, because you're saving the world, right? If you're doing this, if I'm taking more money from you, you're saving the world from crushing in 12 years, which of course is all a fallacy. But to go back to this, the other thing is the energy efficiency policy that was put in by a Democrat governor, Ted Strickland, over 10 years ago, 12 years ago now. Basically, they did an investigation of the energy efficiency program, and that was just a big boondoggle for energy companies. Over 50% of it was going into their pockets for overhead. Okay,
Seriously,
for overhead,
half of it.
And there has been energy efficiency, but the studies that I've seen, it wasn't driven by government efficiency programs. You can say, okay, well, government wants more of these products. The federal government wants these products to be more energy efficient as they come out. Sure. But people are looking at that now. So I understand. I like the fact that you can see what the energy cost is for an appliance. That's great. I think those are good things for the consumer. So I think that drives, energy efficiency. But what also did is the fact that in that time period, those 10 years, we went from incandescent bulbs to LEDs, basically. So that was one of the biggest drivers of this. But our CO2 emissions, if that's what you want to look at, has gone down. In India and China has gone up. But every single policy that the federal government signs on to, Kyoto protocols, gives them a pass and puts all of the onus on our people and hurts our country. And that's the bottom line. So.
And really there's no accountability at that global level to call them out on any of that. And so to your point, the line of, well, hey, in Ohio, you're helping out people in California, and no, you're not going to see it, but hey, aren't we all just let's reimagine. And the reality of that is that doesn't apply. The shoe doesn't go on that foot. It doesn't apply to them. That's not okay, right? Which is why I personally am glad, both on an individual level and as a business owner, to have somebody like you fighting for us and fighting for our state and fighting for our area. Because these are things that move the needle for my household, move the needle for the households of everybody within Wayne County. It helps to strengthen the state. And I think it's a crying shame that nobody's talking about this.
Yeah, no, I think it is too. It doesn't seem like very many people are talking about it. They're not talking about what's going on and how these things are affecting us. And that's though that's where some people don't understand that how much these policies matter into their life. I mean, what's going on right now with your loss of dollars because of inflation? There's going to be, I believe. I mean, the Fed has said it. The Fed has said that part of their and part of their tactics in trying to raise these rates, okay, is to try to drive down even jobs, the number of jobs that we have.
Yep.
And that we need some reforms within. We need reforms within our state, in the welfare area and the unemployment area to try to help people get back to work. We've got to get people. We are sitting here with right now. Okay, we had this wonderful opportunity in this last year. We had the most amount of jobs, okay, available, and people not being able to work. And I thought that was, in one way, or people not working, that's coupled with the fact that we had the most amount of people on the sidelines not working of working age. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Those two things. So anyhow, that's those are the issues that I think that are big, and the fact that we need to try to help people get back to work. And at the same time, we're going to be dealing with the fact that I think the job market is going to get tighter and tighter. And that's on top of the fact that we have no border. We've had 5 million illegal immigrants come into the United States. And in Biden's 4-year term, it's estimated that we'll have more than 12 million, which is more than the population of the state of Ohio. Wow. We've got some real struggles that are heading our way. And you better have some people that are ready to take on this battle, because it's going to be there's going to be some huge things happening at the State House. It's
going to be a huge uphill battle, and you know, I get the increasing feeling. I don't know if you ever feel this way or not, that our society and our culture by and large is a lot like a house cat chasing the little red dot around the room.
Yeah.
And we're over here chasing, you know, whether it's entertainment or Hollywood or some movie or you fill in the gap, right? And I think that what we are seeing, though, is an awakening in a lot of respects where individuals are going, wait a minute, these things are not what I'm being told, and I'm being told that these are the issues that I care about. I'm being told that these are the issues everybody else cares about. Right. But I know all the issues that I care about are not the same thing that I'm being told I'm supposed to care about, or what everybody else is, and everybody in my circle is caring about the same things that I'm caring about, right? And so that's inflation, that's energy costs, that's crime rates that are skyrocketing. That's the no border down on the south of it. And I'm not opposed to legal immigration. I think that's a wonderful thing if it's legal and it's done responsibly. Right. But just to have individuals, and I don't care if you're the most bleeding heart liberal that really I think are harder to find now in a traditional sense. If you rewind 20 years ago, I don't think that the two are even the same thing, right? But even if you look at this from a human trafficking standpoint and we go, look, the border being wide open is not a good thing. It should be done responsibly and legally, and just having them wander in and get overwhelming cities and then looking at the crime rates that are surging, that's affecting Ohioans too.
Right. It is affecting. But I will say this one last, this thing about the border. If you were just watching CNN or MSNBC or looking at AP articles, you don't see actually what's going on. You have to go and get other resources. The border's wide open. They're letting them there. You see them open. Border security is letting people in lines in thousands a day, and here's the bottom line. They aren't being vetted. What they simply do is they take a picture of them, they print out a piece of paper if the person's caught on these encounters, and they ask them for their name. And that's what it is. That's the vetting. I mean, I've seen it. You can, if you search for this, you can find that. You can Google this, and you can see this, because I've seen that paperwork through people that were getting on planes down in San Antonio to Atlanta. I saw it with my own eyes, and so it's their picture, it's the name that they told them, and then that. And what you have right now is you have, and people aren't talking about this, but it's a tragedy for these kids. You have, unfortunately, parents that maybe parents or guardians or whoever sending them on the way up with coyotes, trying to make connections. They are not being vetted for who these kids are staying with in America.
No.
So the Biden administration is what was it? 100,000 kids, they don't know where they are. They can't account for them.
Yep.
That came into this. This is a tragedy. And then at the same time, we have child trafficking just off the hook. It's going on in Columbus. We know it is.
Yeah.
I've seen, there's articles about it. And then you have the rape of the 10-year-old child by an illegal alien. Now, alleged rape, because he hasn't gone through a trial yet. And he's going to get that child. But we know but the evidence is all there, and we know that he's an illegal alien. And we just aren't asking the questions. No one wants to ask the questions. Columbus is a sanctuary city.
Yep.
What kind of cover-up was going on? Was there a cover-up? How long did somebody stay? Did any official know about this before the arrest was made? The arrest was made one day after Dave Yost, our AG, did an interview. And the question is anybody asking whether this child is being sex trafficked? Because the mother defended the illegal alien on Telemundo, doesn't speak English, and doesn't have a driver's license. Now, those are indicators that maybe somebody should check to see if she's here illegally also.
Yeah, why wouldn't we ask the question?
And this guy evidently was a barista. The illegal alien was a barista, serving coffee and paying $12 $1,200 a month a rent. So, those types of questions are like, okay, so where's this money coming from? Who's a part of this? And those questions are being tapped down. I think they're being covered up. And that's one thing I want to pursue in this next 2 years is give AG Yost the ability to invest after this trial's done, to give him full authority to investigate this to a T.
That matters so much. I mean, those children really are victims in all of this, and so that's tragic in and of itself. I'm blown away by that. I really am. And if we're on the topic of the border for right now, man, how about the fentanyl coming over? Is that not a concern to anybody right now? That's killing a ton of people.
Right. I mean, fentanyl's killing more than COVID did. Okay, let's just be honest. And if you look at the numbers right now, it's unbelievable. And we don't even talk about it anymore, right? We almost don't talk about it anymore because it's just like, well, we just expect that to happen. But the fact is that anything's coming across that border. And I always think, fentanyl is coming across that border. So we need to look at our penalty system here in not in the United States, but in Ohio, because we need to make sure that anybody that's engaging in the sale of those drugs, anybody that's engaging in human trafficking, anybody that wants to get a job and take it from an Ohioan, we've got to start looking at policies that protect Ohioans and make this not a hospitable place for people that want to do things illegally. Absolutely. Yeah. And, one thing I'll say, and this needs to be, and this is hard to say, but, I saw a couple of articles just recently about these rape trees down at the border. And the coyotes will put female underwear on those trees after they commit this, just in the face of border security. And our border is owned, by the narco state. It's owned by these cartels.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say is in the last GA, I passed a resolution that the body of the House of Representatives voted for, to ask the federal government to declare those cartels that are running these drugs as terrorist organizations. And if that happens, they can change the way they deal with them.
Good.
They can actually go into the other. They can freeze their assets, go into the country, and they can bring in military assets to take that.
Good.
And that's something that we need to do. But I led that effort.
Yeah, exactly. Well, these are all issues that speak, I think, directly to the heart of not just Wayne County, but I think a lot of Middle America. But certainly, these are issues that speak directly into us. Let's cover one more real quick, and then we'll wrap out this our episode or this podcast, our time together for this morning. Talk to me about crime, because I see a lot of that everywhere that I look.
So yes, and the one thing that sometimes in a place like Wayne County, people will try to say that it's not affecting us, that it's not something that affects us or our community. Well, it does. It's affecting our state. Yeah. Because crime's out of control in most cities, but Cincinnati and Columbus are two places where Cincinnati is the second highest homicide rate increase in 2021. Columbus is in the top 50 for the highest rate homicide increase. And so, this is for a varied, there's a lot of a myriad of reasons. There's a lot of factors. The border's one, what's going on. But the disrespect that we've had for law enforcement has been a big issue. And I'm on a bill right now that we're trying to get passed, that if you engage a law enforcement officer and you try to fight, or we're trying to up those penalties.
Good.
The bottom line is that, my opponent may be for handcuffing cops. I'm for handcuffing criminals. And that's the bottom line I think that we need to do. And we need to look at bills that are going to help us make sure that we put these people away. There's a lot of violent folks out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're in our cities. And Wayne Countyans need to feel protected when they go to Columbus, Cleveland, or Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that bleeds into a lot of other broader issues that maybe we can discuss in another time. But I would say it needs to be addressed. And,
I appreciate this. Thanks for having this. And we'll do it again.
I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Yeah. All right.